Hey everybody, this is Dan Cook. I'm an equity analyst and investigator with bullmarketrun.com. What I want to do today is try to dissect the super stock pick of ours in almost no time at all. So I'm going to try to tell you a little story. It's going to take us back to June of last year and a piece we did on a company called Kopn. KOPN is the symbol. It trades on NASDAQ. And I want to try to just help all you stock pickers and investors out there see what we saw. We want to dissect this thing. It seemed like an obvious opportunity to us, but at the time, it seemed like everyone was blind to it. So what were the key ingredients there? Little to no analyst coverage. I really believe that's one of the key ingredients in just about any great stock pick out there. I mean, you could buy a company like Microsoft or Apple, great companies, no doubt, but these companies have 30, 40 analysts following them. So anytime these companies sneeze, somebody knows about it, basically. So we like to look at companies that have little to no analyst coverage. And at the time, this KOPN, it had maybe one or two analysts that covered the stock, and frankly, they weren't doing a very good job of it. So that just means there was no one out there telling the story, right? No one's beating the pavement or pounding the telephones and shouting from the rooftops about this company. It was overlooked and underloved, as I like to say. And part of the reason it was overlooked and underloved is because it fits this definition of being a penny stock. So in the eyes of the financial regulators and the SEC, any stock that's priced below $5 per share is considered a penny stock. So I mean, the company could have a market cap of $1 billion, but if it's below $5, that means it's a penny stock. Well, what's the problem if you get this classification as a penny stock is that stockbrokers, financial advisors, almost no brokerage firms out there will recommend these stocks because they're sticking their neck out there, and if they're wrong, they can get sued. Someone will say, hey, this is a penny stock. Just stick with Apple, stick with Microsoft. You'll be fine. So again, the penny stock, it just again works to our advantage as individual investors because we're hitting it where they ain't, basically. Ultimately, we're competing against some of the smartest minds in the world, and if there's thousands of stocks out there that the professionals just frankly are not allowed to buy, even if they love it, they're probably buying it for themselves. They just can't recommend it to their clients. So that gives us a little bit of an edge sometimes. And then three, with this case of KOPN, it was a value stock. I mean, in my mind, this was nothing but a value stock, but had exponential growth potential. So in this case, you see 2 plus 2 happened to equal 4. And I say that because at the time, and I'll show you in just a minute, we first did a piece on Kopn for our subscribers June 15th of last year. A special piece we put out, as you see the title here, thanks to Kopn's micro displays, the world is looking up again. Maybe you've driven down the road lately, cruising down the highway, 75 miles per hour, guy next to you, the girl driving down the street, 5 feet to your right and your left, they're texting, right? You're at the dinner at a restaurant. People hardly talk anymore. Everybody's looking down, and it's actually creating something. The Cleveland Clinic it's a new thing they call text neck. It's a pretty serious condition, but we think Kopn's going to go a long way towards solving that problem. One of their key ingredients is their micro displays. So the first thing, just to wrap up on this value thing, Kopn had about $2 per share in cash, and they had over 300 patents. So this company has been around for a long time, over 20 years. Their core technology stems back to probably some pretty smart people over at MIT and a big grant from DARPA, kind of a secretive agency within the Department of Defense. And Kopin's microdisplays have what they estimate is about a 90% market share in the military avionics area. So we're talking fighter jets, helicopters. These guys are flying at top speeds. They can't be looking down like the person driving on, next to you on the highway. They got to keep their eyes on the road, right? So they use Kopin's displays. They've been using them for a long time. So what does that mean to me? That means that it's a quality product, right? The government, the military, they use the best of the best. Cost isn't always an issue, so we like that. We knew Kopin's microdisplays were top-notch for that very reason. So then the question is, they had over 300 patents they built up. What are these patents worth? So this is where, again, I put on my investigator cap. I start asking around, looking at other deals, talking to private equity investors. So you can see here an article from TechCrunch back in 2014. And take a special note of the design here of these glasses, because you'll see Kopin's technology does things that look almost identical to this. So Microsoft paid about $150 million to buy just IP from this company a couple years ago. You might recall Facebook paid some crazy number, $2 billion for this Oculus thing. Those big swimming scuba goggles that sit on your face and no one can leave the house with. So pretty big numbers thrown around on some of this stuff. And when I talk to the private equity people, they would say, hey, on average, a granted patent could be worth anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. And at the time, Kopin had over 300. So if we were just real conservative with like less than what they said, like 250,000, you could have said their IP was worth 75 million, perhaps a lot more. And at the time, I guess I'll just take you back and show you here too. Right around June area, you could, when we put out that piece, it's about $2.30. So they had about $1.60, $1.70 worth of cash, if I recall. It was over 80 million, and then the IP. So you're practically getting any future for free. So what was the future, and why were people so negative on Kopin? I'll back it up. You can see the stock has done nothing for decades. It's kind of a serially disappointing stock, as I used to think of it. But people looked at them for one and said, hey, well, sales are dropping. Well, there was a good reason their sales were declining. They were selling old lines of business to focus all their energy and efforts onto this burgeoning market. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called wearable technology. Cowen & Co. thinks it could be worth $170 billion by 2020. So look at all the different products, from the wrist to the head, feet. Everything out there is going to be collecting data, and then this was, again, that article we sent out to subscribers at that time. You could see here, again, so we made the case. It looked pretty good fundamentally, looked like a value stock, and also technically it looked like the risk reward was so when I talk about risk, right, what's the downside? I always want to know what's the worst case scenario, and it looked like maybe there's this huge double bottom at around $1.50. So it looked like you had a lot of potential catalysts on the horizon for a company like this, be it an acquisition or actually growing into some of these markets. And it looked like the downside was fairly limited. So that's what this is all about with any investment: relative reward versus the risk we're taking. So now I want to just show you an example here. So this RealWear is kind of a quasi-subsidiary of Kopin. And I'm going to tie this into all Kopin's 300 patents and what this technology is geared towards. So RealWear, as you see here, this HMT1, they call it a head-mounted tablet. You can imagine the possibilities of workers out in the field wearing this thing. Look at this, up there. Obviously, you've got to be hands-free when you're working in those kind of environments. So, where am I going with this? This particular product, Kopin has an equity stake in this company called RealWear, and their IP, their patents are inside. Maybe you've heard the term Intel Inside. You could think of it similar, where Kopin their components are inside of this device. They've got their display right here, projecting a bigger image. They've got their miniature batteries helping to power this. And again, completely hands-free. You can't be in harsh environments like on an oil rig, or in a plant somewhere. You have to wear gloves. You can't take your gloves off. So touching a tablet is just a non-starter. Has to be completely voice controlled, and that's really one of the gems that Kopin is developed and come up with, is what they call their Whisper chip. So here's the battery. They've got the miniature battery. You can see all this stuff like they were presenting at the Consumer Electronics Show. So again, the display, the battery, and voice control. Those are all the things we need to power the future of especially wearables that are going to be on your head. And while I'm on that point, Kopin's founder, Dr. Fan, he's somewhat of a visionary, and maybe more people will hear his name in the future, because Dr. Fan was getting patents on computers that you wear on your head back in like the 90s and the 80s. So he's definitely ahead of his time. This is the Whisper chip. This could be one of the next products that really turns Kopin sales around and really drives things. Look at how tiny this thing is, and it just works better, flat out. It works better in noisy environments. So don't take my word for it, right? Let's see what people are saying about this particular product with Kopin inside. Look at that guy. Not just any people either, right? This is Gary from the Director of Technology at Hewlett-Packard. Just take a look at this. People can work anywhere in the world, solving problems quickly, efficiently, and that leads to ROI very quickly. So you think people aren't gonna, they're already winning awards with this HMT1. It's gonna be, it's supposed to be shipping in volume by the end of June. Companies have been testing with this, you just haven't heard about it, in a pioneering program for years. So look at Honeywell. They said, hey, we've been looking for something like this for a long, long time. Finally, it's arrived. This is something real, says Eric Johnston of ExxonMobil. So, interesting stuff. One of the key things was this deal with Gore-Tex, company called Gore-Tex. Check them out. They're one of the world's largest manufacturers of augmented reality and virtual reality headsets. Also smartwatches. So imagine how many people, you're going to need the voice control on that smartwatch. You're going to need it on your glasses. Gore-Tex, they're going to be producing 3 new headsets, they said, just in an update the other day. They're a 10% equity holder now. Just earlier this week, we're in March here, 2017. Dr. Fan said we're positioned for substantially increased revenue in late 2017 and beyond. So, bottom line, it's taken more than a decade to put everything in place, but with the miniature batteries, the displays, and the voice recognition, Kopin is now a one-stop shop for all things wearable. And with help from Gore-Tex as the manufacturing muscle, they're going to be able to really, I believe, it remains to be seen, putting out some big volume. We're talking millions. You could imagine millions of units of those little Whisper chips. By the way, some of Gore-Tex customers, just in case you didn't see it, Samsung, Sony, Microsoft. So I can't wait to see how the market reacts when some more of these partnerships are announced. They just announced one with Lenovo back in January as well. So let me again show you another thing. Just where is all this going? You remember the Google glasses, right? I mean, huge failure. So a lot of people didn't think this was possible, but take a look. Actually, millions of people viewed this on their Facebook. Let me clear it out. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it there, but you get the gist, because I want to show you another one. Very lightweight. Obviously, the display has got to be spot on.
Solus are providing some amazing information to us in a way that is completely different. As an eyewear, the Solus is absolutely revolutionary.
I know a lot of cyclists get really into that gear and into that technology and how to improve, and this is definitely a tool used to help you improve.
All right, so that Solus is an example of Kopin's product they put together just to show what was possible, because they went to companies like Oakley and others. No one believed that it was possible, partly because of Google's big flop with their glasses. But again, here's another example of the eyewear. They put this on Kickstarter, sold out in 24 hours. SoftBank, one of the third largest companies, or the third largest company in Japan, is going to be distributing this. Obviously a device for serious cyclists, but you could imagine there's interest from the serious running community as well. And so what was just meant as a concept product almost could actually really, I think, catch the people by surprise as the next months and years unfold. I believe the retail MSRP on this was supposed to be around $500, $495. So I mean, do you think the market isn't at least maybe 50,000 people out there that could have this? Maybe not, but the point is that at the price we were paying at this value stock price, I think you could still argue there's good value even now with KOPN. I don't think there's any great expectations, right? That's part of the moral of the story, is we're paying a price that was below the cash and basically liquidation value almost, right? Would you sell a house for $1 million if it had $1 million worth of art and furniture and valuables in the house? Of course not. You'd just be giving it away. So if Kopin could actually sell, say, 50,000 of these, or with help from SoftBank, the third largest company in Japan, and that could be 25 million in revenues alone off this product, that I think there's very little expectations out there for. Of course, the Whisper chip, and it wasn't too late after, right? We've been writing about Kopin for a long time, going back to June, but we continue to follow up, and we follow up almost on a weekly basis. You can see here we're putting out information. In November, we did another piece saying that basically 2017 was going to be a great awakening for a sleepy Kopin. And so what's the bottom line? I don't know. I think the bottom line is just growth stocks and penny stocks. They have there's some conventional wisdom or misperception that they're always risky. So I think with Kopin we proved that. Hopefully I proved that that's really not the case. when you can buy a stock for a little over $2 that has almost $2 a share in cash and probably $2 worth of patents and intellectual property, and what's going to be this massive, massive growing market. Obviously, somebody, Kopin's probably going to be a takeover target at some point, hopefully not too soon. Other point, with thousands of stocks to choose from, right? Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of stocks out there just in the U.S. market alone, things are going to slip through the cracks. There's no doubt about it. So if you don't have the time to find amazing deals like KOPN, which is up about 55% in just 9 months, consider investing into a newsletter service like bullmarketrun.com, because it saves you time. Bottom line, we're at this 60, 70 hours a week, and we've been doing it for decades. So it saves you time, and time is our most valuable asset. And it's a risk-free deal as well. So let me just wrap it up there, and again show you in the grand scheme of things. I took a little liberties, saying this was a super stock pick, but it's done well so far. And just look at this. I mean, this was a $15, $20 stock years ago, and it's just been building. It's like a sleeping giant. This, so we think there's still a lot of upside still to come. So we wanted to show you what's possible. It's not very often you call a stock, at a decade low, which we came pretty darn close to doing so. But I think it's still very early innings for Kopin, so not too late for others out there that are just learning about this story. So I'll leave it there with you, and just remember to check back in to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and we'll keep providing great ideas like this. Ciao.